What's going on, guys? Welcome back to WWE Network and Chill, where I, Graham G.S. Matthews, break down all the original content I watch on the WWE Network as well as on the E! Network, as today we're talking the Season 5 premiere, Season 5, Episode 1 of Total Bellas, entitled Brave New Bellas. Now, I think it's been about a year since they last aired new episodes of the show. Total Divas came back in the fall, wrapped up, I think around December or January. I think it was around December. I'm pretty sure it was around November, around this time a year ago that Total Bellas was on the air, because they were talking about Bryan's heel turn, and that was in late 2018, so that would match up time-wise, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a while. To kick off the episode, they recap kind of everything that's been going on and kind of preview the rest of the season with everything going on with Nikki and Artem, how Nikki and Artem kind of came to be, their relationship, whatever. I don't think... No, they have. I was going to say that Artem has already proposed to Nikki by this point, because we know that now, but it hasn't happened at this point in the season yet. They also don't know that they're both pregnant, which we know now also, and this season is all about that. They kind of preview the looming drama with Brie and Bryan about Brie not wanting to have a second kid, but Bryan does. Kathy actually asks, I think it's Mama Bella. I think Kathy was the one who said, oh, don't stay if you don't have children, whatever. Like one of those things where, if you don't want to have kids, then why stay, There's also drama with Kathy and the dad coming back in the picture, who I think they reconnected with on an episode of Total Divas way back when, I feel like on season 1. But he's coming back in the picture, and she's pissed about that. It's also a question of whether Artem will propose and the Bella's getting pregnant at the end of the season at the same time, all this other stuff. So after all the previewing and all the recapping and whatnot, we hear from Nikki, who says it's been such a whirlwind of romance being with Artem over the last, I would say, year or so, because I think Season 4 closed out with the big reveal that Nikki had now moved on to Artem, and that they were getting closer after they'd been on Dancing with the Stars together, so many years ago. She says that it's been insane with all the, publicity and the paparazzi, which I don't think there has been much. I really haven't seen Nikki's name in the headlines as much as she was when she was with Cena, so I'm not really sure where she's going with that. But she said that it's been insane, but it's been worth it, that she's never had as a passionate of a connection with someone as she has had with Artem. Meanwhile, both of the Bellas have been busy, Bryan too being back on the road, wrestling again. The first time we actually see Brie, she's trying to pee on a pregnancy stick. Now, again, this is completely natural. I know that's what this season is all about, but I feel like the least they could have done was talk about it and not show it. Telling and less showing, I feel like, would have been more effective here, because I thought that was a little weird. Brie has the bathroom door open. It's very strange. Come to find out that the Brie is not pregnant. Bryan reveals that to her after it comes back negative or whatever. Meanwhile, Nikki says that she never thought she would have a relationship quite like the one that she has now with Artem. She never thought something that quite perfect, in her words, in her opinion, would ever happen to her. Meanwhile, Bryan, we hear from him behind the scenes about how he doesn't expect to have a baby right away, because they're both older. They're not exactly in their 20s or early 30s. Bryan is, I think, late 30s. Brie might be mid-30s. They're older, so it's not going to happen right away, but he's still expecting it to happen at some point, because that was the whole thing. The reason why Brie kind of was taken off the road, or got off the road, retired from the ring about a year and a half ago, a year before this in late 2018, was because she wanted to have a second kid. And they asked Birdie Joe, what do you want, a girl, or do you want a boy, do you want a brother or a sister? Birdie Joe says brother. Nikki talks about how much she likes Artem's Russian accent, and they transition into how they were both married previously, which I guess they didn't know before this scene in the show, which was weird. You would think that would be something that came up a while before this, if they had been seeing each other for so long, but I guess not. I thought that was weird. So we hear from Artem a lot in this episode too, which is kind of cool for the first time. We know who he is. We've seen him before on the show. But we had never actually heard from him. So he comes across like a pretty cool dude. He talks about how we met Nikki, obviously, on Dancing with the Stars. They had a natural connection from day one. Obviously, she was still with Cena at that point. But, they got, along well, and then Nikki went back to him, years later when she broke up with Cena, and it ended up working out. So right after Artem talks about that, we come to find out 2 days later, he gets cut from Dancing with the Stars. They just couldn't find a spot for him in the show or whatever. And he doesn't know what he's going to do, so Nikki's like, oh, you can always move in with me. He doesn't have a job right now. He has his own house. I'm sure he's fine. But as kind of a knee-jerk reaction, she's the one who proposes, why don't you just move in with me? So then after that, we hear from the Bellas, who have Artem on their podcast to discuss the Dancing with the Stars departure, and that's where Nikki makes the formal request to have Artem move in with her into her new house built in Arizona. And she's like, oh, I hope you'll come with me. And he's like, yeah, sure. If that's a formal offer, then sure. He's not like over the top ecstatic about it, but, he accepts and whatnot. So they go to tour the house. Bree feels like Nikki is moving too fast. And when Artem's out of the room, she asks her, hey, do you think this is like, a little too much, too soon? Like, what's going on with that? And Nikki's like, I kind of agree. But she doesn't like lash out at Bree's opinion, which is nice. But, she doesn't necessarily agree with it, of course, because it was her idea to have Artem move in with her in the first place. So the Bellas go biking in New York, taking a break from their busy, chaotic schedules. Bree also kind of opens up to Nikki in this moment, saying that she has a lot of other stuff that she wants to do and work on as a businesswoman before she gets pregnant again, because she likes, as much as she likes being a mom, she also likes being a career woman, as she calls it, and she feels pressured, specifically by Brian, to have another baby. So, coming back from the commercial, Nikki, I had to note this because they're talking about Artem's nickname is Fardum, I guess. F and then like Artem. It's Fardum. Why? I don't know. It's stupid. Nikki reveals that she's actually never farted except for once in front of Artem before. Is that significant? Absolutely not, but I thought it was funny. And if you can't fart in front of your significant other, who can you fart in front of? That's my question for you coming out of this episode. Anyway, so the Bellas have a party for the opening of their business. What it is, I have no idea. They have so many business ventures, I've lost track at this point. So they celebrate that. They go drinking with their friends. They learn Russian words, some stuff I won't repeat here. And then after Artem FaceTimes, they talk with him. That's when Bree breaks the news. This, I felt like, was a little too much of Bree, and she should have apologized for this. But she's the one that brings up in front of everyone else, not Nikki or Artem, that Nikki's moving in with Artem, that she's having Artem move in with her into her new Arizona home. That's none of her business, but she brings it up anyway. And the friends question it. They side with Bree, and they're like, do you think it's a little too much too soon? What are your motivations here? What is your reasoning for this? Are you doing it for the right reason? Are you doing it more out of convenience or out of love? And Nikki doesn't know how to answer that question. Meanwhile, Bree also tells the mom. She tells Mama Bella, Kathy, about this. Again, completely not her business. I know she's the mom, but if Nikki wants to bring it up and discuss it, then it's her business. Otherwise, Bree should not be bringing it up to other people. Like when Nikki's there, I get it a little bit, not really, but like behind her back with the mom, I don't agree with that. So anyway, Bree is with Kathy because she's on her way to the OB/GYN because they're going to talk to a doctor about having a second baby, if it's smart, if she can have a second baby, whatever. The doctor says, it's likely if you're still having your period. I'm not exactly sure how any of this works, so I'm not going to go into great detail about that. But what they do talk about is the emotional side, how Brian, more so than Bree, is the one who wants to have a second child, specifically to have it be a boy. She doesn't really understand that you can't try for a boy. You just have to try for a child. It's a 50-50 shot, that was dumb. And she laughs about how dumb that is. But they reveal here that Brian wants a boy to keep it, the Danielson name alive, because he's the last male Danielson with his dad passing away. They have Birdie Joe, who's a girl. They want to name the boy Buddy after his dad, Buddy Danielson, which is really nice. And it's a natural thing for anyone to want to have a boy, like The Miz. I'm sure he said he wanted to have a boy, and they're having a girl, and whatever. I feel like this is more realistic. The Miz one that kind of took a goofy approach to it. This is a bit more realistic because she doesn't want to have a second kid. Miz and Maurice both wanted a kid, I guess, and he just wanted to be a boy. It's not. He moves on, whatever. She just doesn't want to have a kid at all right now. And the mom even asks her, who are you doing this for? Are you doing it for yourself or, Brian or who? And she can't really answer that question. She feels like she does not want a second kid. This is when things get real tough, though. So all that shit, it's whatever. All of these are real life issues, so it's nice that everything's not, peachy and everything's amazing. It's all perfect. It's not. Even with Nikki and Artem that we get to soon enough, but especially with Bree and Brian. Yeah, they're a bit too dramatic about it, and it's whatever. But the worst part of this episode, in terms of like shit to sit through, because it's so tough to watch, because I'm a big dog person, is when they reveal Nikki's with Bree and Birdie Joe. Bree gets a text from Brian saying that Brian had to take Josie, their dog that they've had for many, many years, 7 or 8 years by this point, has to go take the dog to the hospital. They have Winston, too, who's, I think, younger, a lot younger. But Josie they've had forever. Goes to the hospital because it had a seizure. They come to find out it passes away. So sad. And not just the news that the dog passes away, but their reaction to it, specifically Brian. Because the guy is as nice as could be, and his reaction to the dog passing away, Josie passing away, is so heartbreaking. Like, I am almost in tears even talking about it. Now, watching it back, it's so fucking sad. He's so emotional about it because, Josie was there when he was stressed and depressed and, retired and everything else. Like, the dog was always there for him. They talk about how the other dog, Winston, is coping with it. And that's always kind of a weird thing when one dog passes away. How does the other dog or other dogs react to it? How do they kind of cope with it? It's weird. How do they know? Brian says, and again, this really gets me, but he says, it's a space that feels empty physically. There's a space within me that feels empty physically without her. And he says he's going to have trouble getting back on the road because the dog's hair is all over his suitcase. There's bite marks in it because of Josie. Again, he basically cries. He basically cries at several points in this episode. It's really rough to watch. Again, he talks about how Josie did a lot for him when he was stressed or depressed, whatever. And that's when Bree drops the bombshell of all times right now, because I guess she figures, hey, it can't get any worse than this. Let's do it right now before he goes on the road. I don't want another kid. Great cliffhanger going into the commercial break. They come back. Brian doesn't lash out at her, but he kind of gets a little aggressive, as he says later on in the episode, that he admits. He said that the timing of it is unfair. Not just the whole Josie thing, but specifically, hey, I'm going out on the road. I'm going to go sit on a 6-hour flight. I'm going to have to think about this for the rest of the time I'm going to be away. I'll be upset, whatever. Like, I feel like that's, he doesn't say selfish, but that's basically, I feel like what he's getting at here. Bree brings up how, I should be able to say these things and feel open, which is true. And Brian says, listen, I say that stuff all the time. Whenever I'm open with you, you get pissed. So a lot of the things I just work out on my own. And again, a lot of this is very relatable, I feel, to a lot of people. So I like what they're getting at here, the life lessons and whatnot. And he even questions, why do we have such a big house for only one kid? You wanted to move into a big house. And Bree says, I didn't like that house. I like this house more. I like having more space. Even though they have one kid, that doesn't make any sense. Anyway, so they leave off on that note. Brian goes on the road. Nikki takes Artem lingerie shopping, and it's very awkward. The whole thing with Nikki and Artem, too, I feel like Artem, he seems like a great guy and whatever, but I feel like they really emphasize, we're so in love, whatever, is really just a big fuck you to Cena. Maybe I'm misinterpreting that, but that was what I kind of got from this episode, Nikki and Artem, even aside from the whole moving in shit. More so like, I'm all over you. Like, okay, we get it. You're happy. Like, hey, listen, that's awesome. I get it. But I feel like when people do that, it's more of a fuck you to the ex. Especially when you do it consistently. You know what I mean? But to each their own. That's just purely my opinion. After they're done bra shopping and whatever, while they're still in the store, and Nikki asks Artem, do you feel like we're moving too fast? He doesn't really know how to answer that. And she starts to question herself, like, by asking this question, am I taking a step backward here? Artem says, hey, maybe it isn't the right time, but I don't know and I'm willing to try it. And he feels caught off guard with the whole question, but he respects her decision. He's not going to force her into doing something that she doesn't want to do. But he was making plans and she was the one who brought it up in the first place. That's the weird thing. It was her idea in the first place. Her friends basically talked her out of it. It wasn't Nikki's thinking. It was more so her friends and Bree and whatever. She was the one who brought it up, not him. If it was him, then I would get it. I would totally get it. But she was the one who brought it up in the first place, got his hopes up for absolutely no reason. And that's where they leave it, that they're not moving in together. So the whole thing is weird. And then Brian says, to close out this part of the episode, he goes, leaving on a note where Bree and I are disagreeing is tough, because he really wants to talk it out with her while he goes on the road for a SmackDown to face Eric Rowan on a SmackDown show. So they come back from the final commercial break. Brian comes home from the road. They both apologize. Bree says that she was anxious for his response. Is he going to say, I want a second kid or I'm going to leave? Like, what's going to happen here? But it doesn't, Brian's a very nice guy. It doesn't happen. It doesn't go down that way. They both apologize. Brian for being too aggressive and Bree for springing it on him at the wrong time right before he's about to go away. But they talk about Josie a little more and her passing and how Brian feels lonely a lot of the times anyway. And he feels like he wanted the kid even before Josie passed, but having a kid would kind of help fill that void. But he does agree that having a second child right now with how busy they are and how she feels, how Brie feels and whatever, just isn't practical. And Brie admits that, I'm relieved that he feels that way. But it ends on a note where he doesn't feel that way. He says, hey, I want a second kid, but life is tough. That's what he says. And Brie says, I don't want a second kid. So clearly they do if she ends up getting pregnant soon afterward, unless it was an accident, who knows. But that's what the season is going to be all about. Season 5 of Total Bellas right back now on the E! Network every single Thursday night. I know this review is going up much later than anticipated, much well after the Season 5 premiere. My Episode 2 review should be up soon. We should be back on a regular pattern of reviews going up on Fridays pretty soon, if not like over the course of the weekend. There's just a lot of new network content going up on the WWE Network, which is why it took me so long to review this, but sure enough, all the reviews will be up at some point right here on Network and Chill, one way or another right here on the YouTube channel. So stay subscribed, like the video, drop a comment, and share the video. All the support is greatly appreciated. Have a great one, guys. I'm Graham G.S. Matthews, and I'll catch your ass down the road.